Hi everyone, this is the lecture for Chapter 3, Creating the Dramatic Script. I just wanted to point out a couple important things as you're looking over the PowerPoint that I want to reinforce. The first thing is the play script is basically the blueprint for all of the action, the blueprint for theater. It's what we start from. That being said, the playwright has to determine the subject, the focus, and the purpose of his text. The subject essentially is what the play is about. The focus is whose perspective is it, whose side are we on, basically. And the purpose of the text is why are we even watching this play? Is it to entertain? Is it to teach us something? Is it to dig into the human condition in some way or to escape? So those are the essential things that the playwright has to initially think about. Beyond that, the text has to develop a dramatic structure and dramatic characters. So I want to talk a little bit about the terms involved with those. The essential parts of the dramatic structure are the plot, the action, the conflict, strongly opposed forces, and a balance of these forces. So the plot is the piece of the story that we see on stage. Think of the story as being the entirety of events, and the plot are the events that we actually see on stage. So the playwright has to determine what that plot is. The action is the sequence of events that are linked together through a chain of cause and effect. The conflict is the tension between these characters. And what we mean by strongly opposed forces is that you need that protagonist and you need that antagonist so that the characters can achieve the objectives that they're after. So that there's something that they're up against. There's a conflict they're fighting against, a strongly opposed forces. And you want these forces to be balanced so that it's worth watching. Think about the superhero movies, and when you have the bad guy, it needs to be a really bad guy. It's really worth watching that battle between the opposed forces. As far as sequence and dramatic structure, we start with the opening scene to set the tone. Then you have certain obstacles and complications, and then you have crisis or critical turns that happen, and the climax, which is the most significant of these critical turns. There are two basic forms of dramatic structure, and then there are also some alternative forms too, but the basic ones that you'll most often run into are climactic and episodic. Climactic is also sometimes called intensive, and what this means is the plot usually begins later in the story. The scenes, locales, and characters are restricted, and the construction of the story is tight. So it's pretty much a clear climactic beginning, middle, end. What we mean by episodic is all those rules are kind of put aside. There are lots of characters, lots of settings. There are parallel plots and subplots. The overall effect is cumulative, meaning it's not specifically based on one event. There are a lot of different things going on. Think of Shakespeare plays. Most Shakespeare plays are episodic. You have a lot of different plots happening, a lot of characters. We go to a lot of different locations within the same play. So that would be an example of an episodic plot construction. Then you have combinations of the two. You have other forms such as ritual or cyclical, and the book discusses some of those as well, briefly. The next thing I wanted to discuss are the different types of dramatic characters that the playwright will create. The ones that I really want you to focus on are the extraordinary characters, the representative or quintessential characters, and the stock characters. So extraordinary are those characters that are larger than life. These are your King Lears. These are the queens, the princes, the superheroes. Extreme behavior, think like Lady Macbeth, King Lear. Representative characters are those characters that we can relate to a little bit more, characters that are like us, like the girl next door type characters. And then the stock characters are basically your stereotypes. We still see those in TV and film today, the stereotypical characters. The book discusses some other types of characters as well, not so important for you to focus on. It's important for you to understand the extraordinary, representative, and stock characters. This particular chapter has a lot of terms at the end of the chapter, so do take a moment and go over those terms and make sure that you understand what they're referring to. Things like plot versus story, things like the crisis, the conflict, the different types of dramatic structure that I've just discussed. And let's see, and that is about all I want to say about Chapter 3. Enjoy the reading. There's a lot of information in there. enjoy the discussion board that I've set up for you. And please email me, like always, if you have any questions or any of these specific terms in Chapter 3 that are a little confusing. Thanks.